Jurassic World franchise really does divide opinions. Some love it all, some love only a few movies, some, believe it or not, only like the sequel trilogy and animated shows. But for me, this last trilogy with Owen and Claire was missing something. Here's what I think it is. Jurassic Park, The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 all had something in common: tone, suspense and vulnerability. In other words, no one was safe. Say what you want about Jurassic Park 3 in terms of production issues and pacey final act, but even some of the goofy scenes, the one thing it didn't lack was suspenseful moments, character deaths and that magic that the two before it had. Just like it seemed like it was cut from the same cloth. The raptors in the kitchen scene, the T-Rex breakout, the trailer over the cliff, and the campsite attack are all, in my opinion, some of the best action scenes in movie history, especially in the Jurassic saga. Full on the edge of your seat stuff. Iconic even, actually. Head 14 years into the future, to the start of the Jurassic World Trilogy. Now, before you start thinking I'm about to bash Jurassic World, I'm not. It did have suspense, because I know it did. Jurassic World was actually a very, very violent movie. Arguably the most violent of all of them, ironically. I think the death toll went somewhere ridiculous, like in the 20s. In fact, the Indominus Rex escape scene is up there with some of the best in the whole franchise. But the trilogy as a whole felt nerfed collectively compared from what the previous three showed. I'm going to explain why, so sit tight. Colin Trevorrow did an amazing job bringing back Jurassic, and it brought in new fans, new characters, slightly fan servicing us old fans with the original T-Rex, and actually visually bringing the park open, that idea altogether. But it was safe. The new trilogy was very expansive once we left the island. In only small parts did we feel that the characters were like vulnerable between all three of the newer films. Of course there was, special, like there were moments where the characters were quite vulnerable, but most of the time, they weren't. Jump ahead to Fallen Kingdom. New director, darker tone, definitely a hint and the feel of the original trilogy, but we left the island too soon. Taking out the Indoraptor scene later in the mansion, which was quite intense, there were only 3 scenes from what I remember where tension was at its best. In the Baryonyx tunnel, where Franklin and Claire get stuck, but that then was ruined by Franklin's dumbass character screaming. It took away the tension. And then you've got Owen trying to find Blue in the jungle when he was hunting for her on that mission. That was quite intense, but then it's Owen, and we knew he wasn't going to die. So then again the tension went. If they would have used like a character we didn't know, then anything could have happened. And then in the gyrosphere in the ocean, once they fell over the cliff edge, the claustrophobia of being trapped really was intense in that moment. But then they were all just few and far between. Jump ahead again to this time Dominion. I don't really know how much the pandemic had an effect on its production. I'm sure it did, and I'm sure it wasn't easy. But that didn't affect the writing of the movie and the pen to paper. That the writing could have still had that Spielbergian effect and have main characters see their fate. After Fallen Kingdom, we had 5 seasons of a kids show called Camp Cretaceous on Netflix, which is very divisive to be seen as canon due to its ridiculous physics and ideas and tone. But that's not the point. Tonally aimed at kids, death and suspense and realism was almost non-existent, which is fine because it's a cartoon. Dominion felt to me like that show in live action. Some cool ideas, but a live action Saturday morning cartoon. And it was made for kids. And if it would have been U-rated, I wouldn't have been surprised. Now, there are some scenes that I really liked in Dominion. So I'm not going to completely bash it. Well, try not to. But it's easily done. But I can't say that there's any scenes, other than the Terrazino one maybe, that would be getting into most people's top 10 scenes of the whole franchise. Which is a shame. There was no high stakes. Like, Owen literally survived a plane crash in frozen water unscathed. We see nobody affected on screen from this global disaster. Dinosaurs weren't even the threat in the dinosaur movie. So I was left wanting more, wanting closure, wanting a hero to die to save the others, a sacrifice, something. Vulnerability of not being able to escape. And I think being in the Biosyn Valley later on in the film, there should have been a little bit more of that. No one died except Dodgson. Not that I can think of. No one memorable anyway. Other than the Therizino going after Claire having tension, which by the way was a top scene and it's up there with some of the best. I do agree with that. But if it wasn't Claire, then it would have been a lot more impactful. Because we knew that she would survive because she's hunting for Owen, looking for him. So I knew she would survive. The tension was all still there, but it was short-lived. Even the person who deserved to die the most, Henry Wu, survived for a redemption. In the novel, he was torn apart by raptors. Wu setting up a locust free into the wilderness was not what I had in mind. It really was like a children got hold of this script and they didn't want anyone to die, and they all lived happily ever after. The contrast from the first movie is literally just universes apart. But back to my point is that it felt as though, as a whole, the three sequels lacked that sense of vulnerability. Collectively, isolation, unfamiliarity, claustrophobia that the originals had. I put that purely down to because the world built was a lot more open source and it wasn't contained. Taking dinosaurs off the island was the worst idea in the long, sad history of bad ideas. Malcolm quoted.
Taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in the long, sad history of bad ideas, and I'm going to be there when you learn that.
In the Lost World. All that tension just goes away. The threat is objectively there. Theoretically, I'm sure people were affected by dinosaurs, but it wasn't shown. It's gone. Battle at Big Rock was perfect. The 8-minute short has more of everything than that 2 hours and 40 odd minutes Dominion had to offer. Dinosaurs not being scary or a main threat just makes them, well, they're just there, aren't they? They're almost an inconvenience. They blend in rather than being the main focal point. I was expecting a movie about like a battle at Big Rock with our star cast, but we didn't. Making dinosaurs not the threat was what killed it for me. Now, let's talk about the future to finish off. Either way, from all the things I've read about this new movie, Jurassic World Rebirth, that comes out in July 2nd, it sounds like it's bringing all of that stuff back from the originals. All those different things that kept us talking about these movies for 30 years. Like unforgettable scenes, unforgettable characters, unforgettable deaths. The scenes were just never forgotten. They're all iconic. At least for the positive reasons. I do hope Gareth Edwards and David Koepp deliver. The tools really are in place. But back to basics is what Jurassic is all about. And the key of that is survival. Not military, not guns, not having these options. But, being at the mercy of fate and the islands. And I really hope we go back to that. And science and threatening dinosaurs. But we've been promised it. Let's just hope they deliver. Only time will tell. What do you guys think that Jurassic has been missing in the last 3 movies? This is obviously all my opinion. It's not even Steve's. He might agree with them. I don't know. But this is just purely my opinion. But I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button for support, and if you want to be part of our fan community, please hit the subscribe button and join us for more content. There's only one thing left to say. Life will find a way. Bye bye.